Okay, the fairing for our Suzuki's been sitting up there. The primer's dried overnight. The primer on our side parts, the side covers, has dried, side of the fairings I should say, has dried for a couple of days, so we're ready to sand some primer. And this is part 7 of the Suzuki Rg250 restoration. So what we're going to do with this session, this is some 600 sandpaper, wet and dry. I'm going to take a soft block and go over all the primer. Look for any flaws I need to fix, any little spots I need to fill in. And probably what I'll decide to do here, assuming the part is okay, is one of two things. One more thin coat of primer over this if we have to do any repairs. If not, we'll be ready for that first coat of black. Now the 600 usually is just really nice at leaving just enough of a scratch on it that you get a good bond to the pigmented paint. And we did put quite a bit of time into prepping this part when we did the primer, so this should be a pretty nice surface when we're done. Pretty nice surface to work with. Now one of the things at this point that's kind of important to me anyway, I want to get all the edges radiused. I don't want to have any sharp edges here. I want to impart a nice radius surface so that paint, anywhere there's a razor edge, that's where paint tends to, as it dries out and gets old, it tends to chip. Now it doesn't look like we have any real things that have to be worked on here, and so far there's no Bondo at all on this part. It's amazing that for a part with so many parts and so many repairs and so many everythings, we've been able to, with a combination of using CA and a lot of sanding, this part is in the league with my green Kawasaki. How much body work is on it. But I think in the end, you know, this is a relatively rare and because it's a two-stroke, of course, it's really something special to me. Keeping these bikes alive, keeping them that people can enjoy them. Now, if this part had some major repairs to do, then my feeling would have been, won't be able to get that black on today. But I think what we're going to do, we'll see if we can get, and it's these edges that I always fussy about. We'll see if we can get Mark bought a fresh coat of black paint, and we'll see if we can get this, at least get a coat of black on here. The black will show all the mistakes. That's the one thing you can guarantee is the black, if there's a little flaw somewhere in this, the black is going to show it instantly. Anyway, we'll clean this up, prep it up, and see how this is going to look. Well, a lot of work into that part. Now, as I'm going around this part extremely carefully, I found a couple of spots that I really wasn't happy with. And by the way, this is another, the spot putty. I don't like to use a lot of this stuff. And the other trick is if you put some out, don't use the first 1/4 of an inch that comes out of the tube. That's usually pretty well dried out. You want to mix it up a little bit with some that comes out later on. We do have a couple little spots here that I didn't see before. And this will dry in about 10 minutes. I can then just sand these little parts. Now, another trick, super good trick, when you have the thin rubber gloves on, you feel mistakes a lot quicker than you see them. And that's what you want to address. There's actually one up here. So any little spot we have like this, anything we can do, any little spot, it's just going to make the final product, especially because we're painting it black. Now for sure, the less of this material you use, the better. I know in the past I've seen people just trowel this on, but I always think on a part that's going to flex and be subjected to heavy vibration, you want as little of this as possible. Now, a good way to know if any of these little spots are going to show, I'll let them dry. Any little spot I've worked on. And I'm just being ultra fussy here. This is the kind of little stuff that sometimes if you didn't do this, maybe you wouldn't even know. But one thing's for sure, if you do it and the person that's going to ride this bike appreciates it, you'll always be glad you did it. Now that's got to dry. And we're just going to dry sand that out with some 400 or 320. And we'll be ready to, maybe we would have primed the whole thing again. I'm just thinking maybe I will, since I'm not in any rush. Maybe I will put another coat of primer on that when I'm done. So after doing a lot of little tiny repairs on this, I think it'll be worth the extra time. And Mark did buy 2 cans of primer, so we're not going to run out of primer today. But having another coat of primer on this and letting it dry overnight will just make it that much nicer. Now the material we've been using on this job is primer, but it's primer sealer. Anytime you're dealing with plastic parts that you may be going through into the raw plastic, especially the older parts and especially the ones, I'm just making an example, a 750 Honda side cover, a Ducati mirror, any of those parts there, this really stacks the deck in your favor. You're not going to have a problem. And as always, light coats better than thick coats. And what I'm trying to do is go any of the spots that I've sanded through, put a super light coat on. And then what I'll do is put a thin coat on everything, so now I know it's cured, it's covered. And then the last thing, this will be go in the shop. Actually, you can go in the garage tonight. The thing with all primer is not to just take it and try to paint like you're painting something. Just to get it on as thin as possible. This is not primer filler. The primer filler would be if we were doing a lot of Bondo work and wanted to cover up a lot of mistakes. I think right now this part is in pretty good shape. I'm pretty fussy about it though, to be honest. But again, the whole thing is primer sealer. Plastic parts, primer sealer. Now I'm really happy I put the extra little time into making this part as nice as possible. And I know Mark appreciates the extra little quality in the job. I know he loves that when he goes to these bike shows, especially the market show, and he wins a free brake rotor or whatever he won last time. Anyway, it was a lot of fun, and we do enjoy these restorations. However, now this part's gonna have to dry again overnight. A lot of people put on paint right after primer. I like to always let it dry overnight. Now I'm hoping if tomorrow is a paintable day, and we never like to compromise on what a paintable day is. If it's really high humidity, not a great idea. The last couple days it's been looking like rain or snow or whatever. But anyway, we're going to put this aside to dry, and tomorrow we'll come back to this and we should be ready to paint some black. Now I always think, and I try to end every video with a thought. Short video, long video, medium video, no video at all. There's a thought. And it goes something like this. You really do spend a lot of time, a lot of energy, and sometimes that time that you spend seems like it goes on forever. But when you're done, it seems like you always have something worthwhile. So I hope you enjoyed this little video. Part 8 will be coming up in the next day or so. And thanks for watching.